3, 2, 1. We're live.
You did learn how to count.
Yes.
After the first one, I was saying, no, it's 3, 2, 1, not 9, 4, 1, go.
I can even do it backwards. All right, folks, we are here with Mr. Blake Barnett. Blake Barnett has the TV show Trailing the Hunter's Moon. He's also on Instagram and YouTube, correct?
Yep, Carbon TV.
Carbon TV.
Trying to keep up with you boys.
Yeah, well, you know the gig. You know the deal. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
How a lot of people don't understand what goes into doing this.
It is a full-time, more than a full-time job and lifestyle that never quits and never ends, and that is the truth.
Yeah.
But, you know, and at times it can get so frustrating. Oh, my God, it gets frustrating. It's like, okay, but you don't want to quit.
You don't want to quit. You can't quit today. You can't quit. I mean, I never thought that it would be this difficult. And I'm just going to brag on my buddy Keith here for a minute. But Keith, I've been watching Keith and his brother since I was 7, maybe. I'm 40. I'm going to be 49. And I remember running into Keith Warren. I think he was driving like a Ford Cougar back then, and he had a black and silver Champion bass boat, and he's hauling ass and doing donuts at the boat ramp, and I'm like, who is this guy? And I was just starstruck when I pulled up to the boat ramp with my father, and it was Keith Warren. I think we even had to help him push the Cougar up the ramp with the boat on the backside. But thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course.
You know, I've been doing it a long time, and a lot of things have changed in our distribution model.
Yeah,
okay,
100%.
And a lot of things have changed in the way that we hunt, in all. But the thing that hadn't changed in me is my passion.
Yeah.
For the outdoors. And
and
the thing about it is, people ask me, say, "How did you get started?" It's like, you know, the thing I got started is, I tell people I don't even remember my first hunting or fishing trip. I mean, I was the pup. I don't remember. It's just all I've ever done.
Yeah.
And so, but this isn't about me. It's about you. How did you get started?
In the hunting business, in the TV and hunting business, I got started when I was about 25 years old, and I was kind of in between career changes and was doing some work in actually out in West Texas as a landman, running title. And you and I have a mutual friend, Kim Hicks. Back in those days, excuse me, he had a magazine, was it the Texas Hunting Directory?
Yep. He sure did.
He sold it or whatever.
He and Novacek and Weissoon were partners.
Yeah. And I think he sold it. It was when outdoor television had really made a big jump. You had been doing a lot of television already. You were one of the guys doing especially a lot of things on local networks. But when cable satellite really went strong, you know, with big game hunting television shows, ESPN and that stuff.
Yep.
Kim, I think, decided or that was the shift maybe the industry was going to go at that time, and people were getting rid of their magazines or publication businesses, and they went to TV, and I was driving home. I had just lost my job. I was doing some contract work for Chesapeake Energy, and they issued me a bunch of land to go run title on, and then 24 hours said, we're not going to do the project. You're out of a job. That was the oil business, right? And he happened to call me while I was driving home, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, just got to let go." He says, "Well, come work for me." And I'd already had several. I mean, I had experience with cameras. I grew up as a professional horseman, and we did a lot of professional video work to sell very expensive horses. And I said, "I don't know what I'm doing, Kim." He goes, "No, just come be a bead camera. I'll teach you everything." And I think the first shoot I went on with him, another mutual friend of ours, Razor Dobbs, was the cameraman.
Yeah.
And anybody that knows Razor is full tilt all the time. You know what I mean? And I was intimidated just by the long, blonde, stringy hair and him hyper and jumping all around the bushes and getting these shots. And I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. And after that hunt, Kim said, "You got it. I want you to come to work for me." And I said, "Well, what about Razor?" And he said, "Oh, Razor's just contract." He said, "I want you to come to work for me." And I said, "Well, kind of need a job." And so I worked for very little pay at the time to learn the business as a young field producer. But he brought me up through it, and I've gotten to know so many more people through that, which opened up doors for me to go to work for, at the time, Orion Multimedia, which was probably one of the largest production houses for outdoor television at one time, back in the, I'd say, early 2000s, 2005, isn't that about right? So that, I got to work for a lot of productions there, and that's where I was introduced and assigned to work with Larry Weissing as his main field producer for Winchester World Whitetails. So I think, I tell everybody that, and I get asked all the time, how do you do this? And I think a passion. I love the outdoors, number one. I don't want to work an office job. I was a hunter, even though I was a professional horseman growing up. I was a hunter from learning from my grandfathers and my father. And I just, when I went on the first few hunts for Hunting 201 Beyond the Basics with Kim's show, I was hooked. I went to Africa and said, my gosh, if I can make this work. And I think if you're going to be in this business, we were talking about it before we went on air, is being a doer. Yeah. If you want to be successful at anything, you got to be a doer. Well, and in any space, I don't care.
You're right.
We're not getting rich.
No,
we have a passion, and that passion drives us to be who we want to be and do what we want to do. And I think that any successful person out there, be it a very famous celebrity who's made millions like George Strait, he had a passion for music, obviously, and he was a good singer and figured it out, and we all figure it out. So that's where I got my start.
But the deal is we're always trying to figure it out.
It never ends.
We never stop figuring it out.
We don't.
Because we're always trying to keep up with the marketplace. There's so many different changes and things that have happened. Like you mentioned years ago when I first started, we were on broadcast television.
Yeah.
And
6 a.m. Saturday morning.
There you go. And what
Channel
it was,
4.
there were not. There you go. There were not many distribution outlets back in those days. Mm-hmm. Cable TV basically didn't exist.
No.
Satellite TV didn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay, and so literally the way we did our outdoor delivery was through broadcast TV, and it worked. Okay, and the thing about it is at that time, consumers, the viewer, only had a few places to get their fix. It was broadcast TV. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden introduced cable TV, okay? And that completely changed. And now all of a sudden introduced satellite TV. That changed. And now all of a sudden it's not just TV. It's digital media. We got YouTube and Facebook and Instagram.
The internet, the good old internet.
And Carbon TV and all this stuff. It's just like it's always changing and evolving. And the one thing I can tell you, we have all met some very good people, very successful people in this industry doing what we do. The one thing that every successful person has, no matter what profession they're in, is passion.
It's passion.
Because if you don't have that passion, because you're going to have the days that your ass is being handed to you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? It's like as a hunter, and the name of this podcast is People Who Hunt. As a hunter, you've had times you're sitting in a tree and it's cold as can be, and you're sitting there, how much money would have somebody to pay me to do this? There's not enough money.
There's not enough
but
money.
You're doing it why?
Yeah.
Because it's your passion.
It's your passion.
Okay, and that's the reason why it's like on TV, it's like, my God. Sometimes it's not about going out and just killing something.
That's right.
It's just more than that. Tell them about it.
You're so right. And I was fixing to say the viewer just gets to see one thing. They get to see the final product. They get to see 22 minutes of what looks to be the most glorious life that we live.
Yeah.
And I think it's a glorious life, period, if you get to be your own boss and
get to be outside.
And be outside.
With a gun.
And have a work ethic to make it work. That's why we work so hard. That's why we work and stay broke. But we do what we love. And there's a lot of trips I've been on that weren't pleasant. Just like you, But the adventure side was a learning process. You grow from every process, good, bad, indifferent, bad experiences you never want again. We all grow from that kind of stuff. And there's no better, I think, one playground, but also a place to learn about yourself truly as a human being than outdoors. Mm-hmm. And that's sometimes when you're by yourself. You and me get to spend a lot of time with somebody because we have a field producer with us, and those people have to become our friends because we spend too much time together. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard find. That's a hard find. You guys have been partners for quite a while. And it's great to see, because I had that kind of partnership coming through this business, working for Larry for a long time, or working with Larry for a long time, and which is why I have a lot of what I have today because of that. So that partnership is important. But the outdoors is, if you can't oh man, if you can't find yourself and learn about yourself being in the outdoors, I don't care if it's sitting on a boat or sitting on a mountainside or sitting on a river or a stream or a deer blind or a tree stand, and just take a deep breath and think about you, what you can do to be a better person or do better with your business, or how can we fight CWD? How can we fight all these other legislative issues? And, you know, whether it's 2A stuff and things you and I are passionate about, you know, how can we help it be a better place, and how can we be a voice to be that? And I think that it takes a lot of personal time and thought.
And it takes a lot of, I think, listening to what comes in from all these thoughts. It's like,
and listen. Don't
okay,
react.
Listen to the wind blow and the birds, and then also you'll start hearing, like, maybe I'm supposed to be doing something here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, for me, I believe that we're supposed to be helping protect the future of the outdoors for people 100%. That are not even born yet.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, there are people kids that have not been born yet, that I want them to have the passion that we have for this. Mm-hmm. And the only way they're going to have that is not by just sitting there and watching us, but by trying to motivate people that watch us to take action.
Well, I think there's something to be said too. Take action, and I think when you work in the space that we work in, and we work for ourselves, and we're discussing on why we do this, it's important for us when we work this hard to leave a legacy, you know, and for the future generations. And it's much different today than it was when you grew up, Keith, and when I grew up. And there's way more people in the world, and somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to protect hunting and protect our Second Amendment rights. It's not going to protect itself. And we have so many people in the world now that don't listen.
Well, they want things
and
instantly.
So many opinions, and they want it instantly, and they're not going to get it instantly. But if we don't do the work we're doing today, and it's in any industry, to protect and preserve our future of our hunting heritage, of our wildlife, of our wild places, if guys like me and you, and many others, there's thousands, there's lots and lots of people. That it's not just the TV guys. There's lots of us, so that anybody's listening to this. If we don't do that, we won't have this. I believe that firmly, and I know how passionate you are as a person, because I've known you for 20 years, 25 years. But it is all passion-driven. This is all passion-driven, because there's a lot of it we can agree on and disagree on, but it's still the passion that all still brings us together, that we still fight for this.
And here's the thing. Think about this. We are friends and we are competitors,
yes.
But we are on the same side when it comes to promoting the future of hunting.
100%.
And the right to be able to hunt, where you hunt, when you hunt, how you hunt, as long as you do it ethically.
And legally, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care if it's a buck or it's a duck. I don't care what they hunt for. Okay, I want them to hunt. I want those kids to pick up a BB gun or whatever and go out and to start shooting, you know.
If you think about it, you know, us growing up as kids, we didn't have cell phones. I mean, I think the only electronic I had growing up as a kid was a little cassette player that I listened to Michael Jackson or some shit back in the day. You know what I mean? So I didn't have anything but the outdoors to go, you know, play with.
Yeah.
Ride a bicycle, shoot squirrels, rabbits with BB guns. You know, lived on the Cibolo Creek out there in Bulverde, Texas. I mean, we didn't have iPhones and computers.
So you spent time outdoors.
Outdoors, that's all I know. I can't stand being inside today. I can't stand sitting in this room right now. We're sitting here. It's too quiet for me.
Yeah, I know.
Just the three of us, but it's hard. So yeah, I mean, but if you think of the demographics today and what kids have to grow up in.
Well, you and I were just talking about the big and we talk about it every single day, is the big change in social media.
Oh.
Like back in the day, I mean, you know, you guys came up, you made a TV show. I remember you told me you make a TV show, you drive it to each one of the networks, drop it off.
Yeah.
And, you know, physical copy.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you know, we've got to make the TV show. Of course, we love making the TV show, but then we got to do everything digitally. And it's different content. It's a different viewer, you know. We like telling the story on TV. We like, you know making them feel it. And it's like, you know, when you get on the social media, it's like, boom, you know, they just want it right now.
Right now. And if it's ooh, that's a deep subject. Social media's, I'll just tell you, I think it's toxic. I think it's even unhealthy. I think a lot of people are mentally unhealthy because of social media.
I want to agree with you, but I want to say this: there are some good things that come from.
There are good things. I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
I mean, there's two sides of every coin.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's like we have the platform with social media to be able to reach people with an important message. Yet there are some that in our industry don't want to give that message out, and it's like, and they pick sides. I'm not picking a side.
Yeah,
I'm picking the side for the hunter.
That's right, 100%. And I am too. And to go back on what Johnny said, because Johnny, you and I have had those discussions about the demand that producers are put, in for creating this magical, wonderful content that we are all proud of, and we're all creative in different ways. And there's lots of creative people out there, but I think what digital media has done to us is made us, we have 10 times more work we have to do in the same amount of time that we have to produce it in, and you can't rush production.
No.
So you can't rush a TV show. You know what I mean? And that's mega valuable time. I mean, that's my whole contracts with my sponsorships. I mean, my social media and digital there's deliverables there, but my time and my money all has to go into that TV show. Then they want you to do digital stuff, which is great. But if you start slamming a producer with so much content they got to create so fast, you start losing quality. You start losing quality control. And so I personally try to stay focused with my television and then use just the social media platform to kind of drive a few things. And
I'm going to jump in here, folks. Blake is a big-time bass fisherman. Loves fishing.
I love fishing.
Loves fishing. He's been after me. Why don't you not team up again? We'll get back in the tournament deal.
We'll even get us a cougar. I'll find us a 1985 cougar.
and it's like, so he's a big fisherman. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we wind up, I tell people, look, I love to fish, but I live to hunt.
Yeah.
Okay. We only have so much time out there. But if you were asked to fish, whether you want to fish or you hunt, what would you rather do?
Hunt.
Why is that?
Oh man, I get that. I love the travel of hunting. I like being on land more than I honestly like being on the water. When it comes to that side of it. But hunting, I think I hunted before I fished. Well, I might have caught a fish when I was a little bitty kid, but I don't remember going on my first fishing trip. I remember going on my first hunting trip. I remember shooting my first deer. I remember shooting my first duck, my first turkey, my first rabbit, my first probably other birds that you weren't supposed to shoot when you were 7 years old, but we shot them anyway.
Or today.
Or today.
But
I think it's in my DNA to honestly say, I think as a human being, we are the ultimate predator on this earth.
I agree with you. And see, the reason why I think I like to fish, and I've been sitting here trying to figure out why is it that fishing, it intrigues me so, because some hunters don't care anything about it. Yeah. But for me, I'm hunting for something I can't see.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm looking at that log or a clay bank or a boat dock or something. And I'm hunting while I'm fishing.
I gotta speak. Have you ever seen him fish?
Oh no, it's got to be a trip. It's got to be wild. No.
I've never sseen anybody fish the way that Keith fishes.
It's probably 100 miles an hour.
Oh my God! No, most people, they cast a line and they do this, but he's ripping it. He's turning around lures, throwing them on the boat, like the bottom of the boat. I remember I went with him one time. I was covered in lures. He's like, "That ain't working. Let's switch it up." He's the most aggressive fisherman I've ever seen, and I would call it you hunt for fish.
I do.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, and
you kind of do at the end of the day, especially with today. And the way bass fishing is today, if you're not catching an 8 or 9 pounder, you ain't catching nothing.
But so think about this. We hear, one of the big things that we hear, and I guarantee you hear it all the time too, is fair chase, fair chase. I mean, we right now we're at a convention. And there's a bunch of guys out there with all these booths out there, and there was a elk booth up there that says fair chase, and we're walking by there, and
100%.
Johnny said I go in there, and he goes, no. Because I said, well, they got rocks and loincloths in there.
100%
what
fair
the
chase.
hell is fair chase? Okay,
I get it.
Okay, and address that if you would.
Fair chase. My definition of fair chase has nothing to do with fences at all. I mean, if that's where we're going to go with this, I think fair chase is. I mean, I certainly believe in equal opportunity. I want to hunt the animal as fair as I can, but I mean, fence or no fence. I mean, hunting a wild animal to me is fair chase. Fishing for fish in a lake is fair chase. I mean, another definition I don't know if I could even come up with one. I don't look at it or visualize it as not being fair chase. I mean, the deer's not going to come up and eat out of my freaking hand, and I'm going to stone it.
Think about this: the fishermen, are they fair chase? Do they have, because they got all these electronics?
Exactly.
Today?
Yeah. I mean,
where do you draw the line on fair chase?
I think I think it's in a.
Is shooting an animal at 800 yards fair chase?
No, see, in my opinion, hunting is about getting as close as you can.
But you know what? I think fair chase is in the person. I mean, what do you think is fair? You got to have.
That's a good point to put it. I'm not going to shoot an animal at 800 yards because I'll be honest, with you, I don't shoot that good. I mean, I shoot good, but I don't shoot that good at 800 yards. Well, I'd like to get about 400 yards if I can.
400 yards.
And that's part of hunting. So I think that's a great way to put it right there, Keith. Is like fair chase means a lot of different things to different people, and if you can swallow your ego long enough to know what your limitations are and do what's good for you, that's fair chase.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I wound up. I try to come up with a story to people that are trying to help me out. Help me understand what is fair chase. Okay, the little story. I just made this up. There's a little old lady in Kansas, got 20 acres of woods around her house, and she got a Boone Crockett deer laying underneath her clothesline every single day. And these people go driving by, and that deer is as tame as her Labrador.
Yeah.
And somebody wants to come up and shoot it, but she says no. Somebody just came up, and I told them they could. They're giving me $5,000. Now, is that fair? I mean, think about that. I mean, if the guy offered 10, she'd probably take it.
I was just fixing to use kind of a similar analogy. There's a lot of people walking around that floor out there that will argue with you and me about maybe what fair chase is.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you they'll go shoot a freaking 200-inch deer if you give them the opportunity and give it to them.
Yeah, and so what is
fair chase?
Yeah.
On the fishing side, that's another good point. I spent $4,000 and got the whole forward-facing sonar. You think I know how to use that son of a bitch?
Right. And it's like, I don't know how.
I mean, I'm looking at stuff. How would I know that's a bass and not a carp, a grass carp?
But there's some of these guys up there at Ivy. They're catching 13-pound plus fish. And they can look at him and tell him that is a bass, and he's big.
And I have a place on Ivy, and I've been fishing that lake trying to catch them big son of bitches with all that thousands of dollars worth of, and I ain't caught one yet. So
yeah, how fair is that?
Fair, right? And I'm telling the truth. I bought a Garmin. I bought a 15-inch screen, and I ain't caught a double-digit one yet.
You're too old to know how to work that shit.
Well, no, I'm getting too old. I need now the extender to bring it up here where I can see the deer. I can't see it at my feet. Well, that's why we need to go fishing.
Yeah, I did it the old-fashioned way. We just went out and hunted them.
Yeah, no kidding. I love it. Caught more of them.
I'm curious. So first of all, we love doing social media. We do. I mean, there's aspects of it that are difficult.
Job.
Well, thank you. And we get so many positive comments. But I'm curious if this is the same for you, which ties right back into what we're talking about. Is it seems like the majority of the negative stuff comes from hunters that just, for some reason or the other, don't agree with what you're doing. It's so frustrating.
Let me tell you something.
You should have shot that buck with a bow, not a rifle.
The one thing we've been talking about how we got in this industry, we've had and all that stuff. Keith, you got to admit this industry's changed as far.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's always been ego in hunting and fishing and sports in general, right? People are just going to be better than other people. Somebody's always better than you. Yeah. And I firmly believe there's somebody's way better shot than me. Somebody's killed way more animals than I have. Somebody's traveled to more but if we can't put the egos aside and listen to each other and unite, this deal's going to go away.
Yeah. And
we're seeing so much crazy stuff, and it blows my mind, the egos behind some of these organizations, it's anywhere in corporate America anyway. It's not just in our
This is the
industry.
business.
This is a business.
Yes.
And nonprofits and running big nonprofits is a business, and you better run it like a business. And if you run it with an ego, you're going to lose members, volunteers, attendees.
But Blake, how do you handle? I agree with you, but how do you handle the politics? It's like for me, I can't. Okay,
they got to set the egos aside.
But politics, I know when I start talking about politics, some people just turn it off. I'm thinking, you know what? I used to be that way. I can't be that way anymore because that's the important part.
And it's where we have to listen. That's when we're going to get into politics, we all have to listen and not react.
Yep.
And what you're saying is, and I agree with you, is too many people are reacting these days. Everybody's so offended. We've all needed help in our lives. We've all probably had counseling or seen psychology. It's healthy for you.
Needed it anyway.
Or needed it anyway. We probably all needed more of it now. But I had a counselor one time tell me something that just, when she told me it was a woman, it's one thing I can just say in my life that something just clicked. She said, Blake, she said, I was arguing, I was having some personal issues, and I was being my own worst enemy, basically. And she looked at me and she said, has anybody ever told you that facts aren't feelings? Think about that.
Oh, yeah.
Facts aren't feelings. As a kid, teenager, chip on my shoulder. I thought, oh shit, she got me. Facts aren't feelings. Yeah. And we got to talk. We got to tell the truth.
But see, most
and we got to
people
talk facts. But people won't listen today, and they'll react because of feelings.
And they make a judgment on things instantaneously.
Yeah.
Okay, we had hired a business analyst to come into our office and to tell people how fast they make a decision. Do you know how fast, when you're scrolling through the internet on your telephone, how much time you've got to get somebody's attention? Do you know how long? Because you talk about people. No, this is no bullshit. Okay, because I was like, I don't know, 5 seconds, 3.08 seconds. That's it. That's all you've got. And guess what? Is hunting, nothing happens fast. That 10-pound bass doesn't bite quick. Okay, everything. The sunset takes a while. I mean, nothing is fast. Yeah. 0.08 seconds in order to get somebody's attention. And I tell the guys working with us, I say, guys, we don't have enough cleavage to give them in 0.08 seconds to be able to get their attention. And I know that sounds terrible, but it's true. Yeah. When people judge everything quickly and then move on, it's like, wait a minute. The outdoors, you have to spend some time.
And that's
what we were talking about a minute ago. When you go back to all this content that producers in this outdoor space, like the three of us sitting at this table, have to do, we can't rush that time. You know what I mean? We can't make the deer show up when we need the deer to show up. We can't go out there and say, let's knock out a TV show in 22 minutes because that's all we need to put on air. And so I agree with you. It's very difficult. I'm sure, Johnny, you do a lot of the post-production or help with the post-production. And so the hours.
Yes.
Not just for a television show, but even to create content for your social media platforms, to schedule, publish, post or whatever and all that. And if you remember this, Keith, when we used to do TV shows, the timelines were big, long cuts.
Yeah.
And if you think about the transitions we've made before even digital really got popular here, how our edits got quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker.
But.
And now because of what you just said about that point, if that
0.08 seconds.
If that shot's not changing by at least 3 seconds, buddy,
that tells you about the consumer.
Nobody's paying attention.
Okay, and
they lose you.
I was going to say this earlier that when we're talking about time. Okay, have you ever noticed how the old tournament fishermen, the bass tournament fishermen, the guys that really took it to where it really became big. Okay, look at Jimmy Houston. Jimmy is a personal friend. Jimmy's a hell of a fisherman. Do you realize that after Jimmy started his fishing show, he stopped winning tournaments?
Yeah. Because he was taking care of sponsors. Because he had to.
Okay,
yeah.
It was like it took him away from fishing. Okay, yeah. He did a fishing show because he was great at fishing, and then all of a sudden the sponsors wanted him to do it, but he couldn't continue that level of performance at the tournaments because he was taking care of the sponsors, and so it's like it's this double-edged sword. And then here's another thing. What do you think about? I don't know, man. Maybe we shouldn't talk about it, but you know me.
I feel like you're going to anyway.
I'm going to talk about something sponsors and how editorially they want to control people. Mm-hmm. Okay. What I'm getting at is that when you start taking a look at video, and I hate it when all of a sudden it's a sales job all the time. Okay. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't be in the selling business anything other than selling the experience outdoors, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Okay, if the sponsors make a product that helps enhance our experience, then probably ought to be promoting their product. Mm-hmm. But if it's not, so I've got a frustration with like, God bless, man, how much editorial do you want from me? Do you ever have that?
I don't.
Really?
I know, but I understand the pain, and I do know where you're coming from because I have before. And I have other colleagues. You and I both have colleagues that have to do that. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to not have to do that. I'm very Brugger, Tridgecon, and Hornady. My main partner is Marlin as well. have sponsored me for a very long time. Very thankful to them. Have never wanted me to be a hard sell on my show. They've wanted me to take the viewer on the adventure. You know, I don't. You've seen our shows. I don't do a talking head show. I don't do spine interviews. I don't. I used to. I mean, by gosh, I produced lots of shows where we did all that. But I got kind of tired of that as a young producer at an early age, and said. And there's one other producer in the industry that's probably been the best and has produced the best because of all the areas and territories he's been around the world. But Jim Shockey, I think, did a really good job at taking the viewer on an adventure. Mm-hmm. He did some editorial stuff with his stuff like you're talking about. I'm very fortunate that my partners have said, we don't want a hard sell, we just want the product in every segment and shown, being used. Now, I do do some editorial stuff, but not for the TV show, but that I'll deliver for their social media outlets.
Yeah, right.
I'll do some tips or some stuff.
Deliverable type stuff.
I don't use that on my platforms. I'll deliver it to them, you know.
Sure, and they can use it on theirs.
And they use it on theirs. But, yeah, I haven't had to fight that. But, you know, I don't have a lot of sponsors. I mean, you guys are very sponsored. You guys have a long list of sponsors. And, Keith, I know they've been long relationships of yours. I don't have a bunch of sponsors where I would probably have to do more of that editorial stuff. I've been able to, luckily, be financed by, 4 big companies.
Well, how'd you get that Ferrari?
What Ferrari?
How'd you make all the millions that you're making, man? I mean, come on, you're living the dream.
I live in a 1,750 square foot house. I got 2 or 3 climate-controlled storage units full of taxidermy, bro.
See, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, they're millions. I couldn't even afford the insurance for a Ferrari. You know what I mean? I put all my money back into my passion to share with people and take them on an adventure. Every penny. I mean, I am self-employed. I am my own boss, but I mean, every dollar I get paid on a sponsorship goes into that television show and into my lifestyle.
It's a reinvestment.
Yeah.
It's that for me to share my experiences that will hopefully get, and we meet them on these show floors, these kids or young hunters that want to go do what we get to do, whether it's for a living or just for their own adventure.
What advice do you give those guys?
Well, I give the guys that want to get in the business solid, sound advice and tell them.
What, like don't do it?
Don't do it.
Do you really?
I do.
Because I tell them the same thing, and they look at me like, no. It's like, I'm not kidding you.
I tell them the same thing, and I tell them why. Because I see these guys like Johnny, who's very fortunate to have a guy like you, and who's been in the business long enough to sustain a person to keep Johnny around that long. Because not a lot of us can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or it's seasonal, you know. Mm-hmm. For most of us, to be honest with you. Keith, you do multiple shows, and so you have a much larger demographic of sponsors where you're able to keep a staff like that, and that's awesome because most of us don't.
Right.
And, I have a full-time field producer that works for me and does all my stuff, but he doesn't work for me full-time. Like,
no. Seasonal. When
he goes to work, when we're in the field, I couldn't afford him otherwise.
But you know what? Let's talk about that because we wound up the other day, we called about something else, and the guy, you're back in the day, you would hire a cameraman.
Yeah.
Okay. And that cameraman would shoot a camera. That was what his job was. But that's not the case today. The market has moved away from that. And explain to people what has happened and why.
Well, I think digital media has been the biggest driving force behind that. But yeah, when I got in this business, I was able to go to work on a salary or stay as busy as I wanted to stay as nothing but a field producer, a cameraman.
And that's all you did?
And that's all I did. Mm-hmm. That's how I built my reputation in this outdoor television production business is being a professional field producer and cameraman and working for independent producers to production houses. But today, that's not going to happen in the outdoor world, not in the hunting or fishing space. It might happen if you work in the sports world of football and baseball or all that. But in what we do, not going to happen.
And tell them what they have to do now.
Today, and I've had this conversation with my current field producer. I've painted the scene for him because he's a young man as well. He wants to be in this, and he's a little frustrated. I understand his frustrations, but you have to do more than be a cameraman today. You have to be you have to know how to write.
All of it.
You have to be able to be a cameraman. You really need to know how to edit. And being an editor makes you a better cameraman. Can you learn to be a cameraman without learning how to edit? Absolutely. But, you know, if you know how to edit, it's going to make you that much more, you know, valuable. And then, you know, so if I'm going to tell any of these young guys or girls that want to get in this business, I do tell them, I don't just say don't do it. I'm honest with them, though, and tell them it's not like it used to be. You know what I mean? It's very, very expensive. And this industry may look big when you come to these trade shows, but at the end of the day, it's not that big. And there's maybe 300 outdoor television shows on cable or satellite or that you can go watch. And I said, but maybe 2 or 3% of those are financed by the industry. It's either you got to have a lot of money or somebody else is giving you money.
Or it's a hobby.
Yeah. Or it's a hobby. And people, and that's it. So these, you know, and then I tell them today, you better learn how to shoot a camera, run audio, edit, at least know Adobe, or at least know some basics, because with the demand that an executive producer is going to have with social media and everything else, we gotta have it as it's coming out of the field. You know,
right now.
My cameraman, he has to come off a hunt. We get to the lodge at dark, and he's got to go edit photos or get some video clips put together.
Okay, so tell them how glamorous of that job is as a cameraman in this industry. It's not like an 8 to 5.
No.
You talk about y'all talk about your typical day. Okay,
I mean, I know yours is the same because you. So Blake, obviously, like he said, was running outdoor camera TV for a long time.
When they weighed 40 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling
the
you,
camera
folks,
was as big as this table.
Yeah, anybody that's out there that's younger, you have no idea the cameras and the batteries that these guys used to have to cart around. I'm talking about this big. So now, I mean, I'd say there's different difficulties.
My camera and tripod was 75 pounds, just the camera and tripod.
Yep.
Yeah. But when we go out on these trips, I mean, it's not like we come back, the hunt's over, we're going to go and we're going to relax. No. We're backing up footage. We're preparing for the next day because you go out there, you don't have all your gear. Batteries aren't charged. You are done. You're done. Your trip's over, man. You know, that's probably the morning the buck's going to walk out. So, I mean, there's so much that go into it that people don't understand. And sometimes, like you said, when people come up to me like, hey, I'm talking about, I'm thinking about wanting to film my hunts, what would you recommend? I said, do you like killing deer, right? And I'm like, yeah, probably just don't film it, because you have no idea how many, like when you were talking about fishing and when his tournaments went to crap when he started filming, you have no idea how many animals' lives have been saved by that camera.
Oh, 100%.
He won't shoot.
I'm the same way. I mean, the camera, it is about the camera if you're going to be in this business.
Yeah,
Number one, it is about the camera. And I think one of the things that, unfortunately, guys like the younger guys getting into this business, you probably have buddies that are struggling with this. You know, back when those 75-pound camera and tripods, we were talking about hauling $80,000 cameras around.
Yeah.
You know, today, you go buy a $3,000 camera
and be really good.
That shoots a lot better.
Yeah.
Way better. But what has that done? It's made everybody. The technology's gotten so good. It's made everybody pretty dang good.
The barriers to entry are way low.
And so you have so many of this young generation jumping on this social media train. And I think it also leads to other issues, but that's what saturates it so much. Yeah. It's a smoke and mirror show because kids are talented. They can learn stuff on YouTube. They've got excellent technology that's available today at reasonable prices that mom and dad can get for them, and they can honestly look like a professional in a week.
Yeah. But
they're not when they don't know all the other aspects, or they don't know how to edit, or they don't have all that stuff. But think about that competition, and then what does it make you think about? This is what it makes me think about. How many of these younger generations are hunting and killing for clicks and likes now?
Yeah,
I know.
Because they think that I'm going to go be Keith Warren. That's what I want to do for a living, or I want to be Blake Barnett, or I want to be Jim Shockey, or I want to be, if I can go get 30,000 followers, And I go to ranches and outfitters like you guys do, and talk to the kids, the owners' kids, or the guides, and they want to.
And how do you do it?
And they think, look, I got 10,000 followers. I have more followers than you on Instagram. I said, how much money did that make you? What do you mean? Well, how much that money did that make you?
Yeah.
Well, I think I can approach some people. And I said, well, you ought to approach them. And then they're so offended when they get turned down.
Well, yeah.
And I said, 10,000 likes is nothing. And I said, I don't know, maybe those are organic likes. I'm not going to tell you how you run your social media, or if you bought them, you sponsored, whatever you did. But I was like, how many other kids across the country are doing the same thing? I mean, hundreds of thousands of people are trying to do that, now because technology. Our phones. Look at our phones.
Oh,
We were in a meeting here a little while ago, and a gal wound up got one of her videos up, and we were showing her some links and stuff, and she said, and then the guy overheard. He watched. He said, "You got how many views on it?" It was on YouTube. What, 677,000 or something?
oh yes.
Some views on it. He looked at me. I thought, do you have any idea what it took to get that? Do you have any idea how much money was not made from that?
Yeah.
People think there's so much money in it, and there's not.
There's no money in this digital hardly. I mean,
It's
there
smoke and
is, but it's so small.
And Google makes the rest of it.
Yeah.
And especially for the hunting industry, because I don't know about you, but we're getting demonetized a lot.
No, if you are going to work in the gun manufacturer world or in this hunting space, you will be demonetized.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, your Instagrams, they are not going to monetize your content because
TikTok.
you have
Think of
firearms. And
Yes,
stuff.
yeah, TikTok. You can't have a bullet on there.
I made a TikTok. It got like 2 million views, and I had a bullet in it, and they a bullet, no gun, no nothing. They ripped it off.
I got to laugh at something while we're talking about this, but think of the irony of what we're talking about. Why? And I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
Why? Why? And all three of us sitting here at this table are guilty. Are we doing it? As an industry,
Because
why?
we're forced to.
Well, but
because all the manufacturers that are out there think there's value in it. Okay, and
do you think it's the manufacturers or do you think it's agencies?
I think it's all the above.
I think
it is so much smoke and mirrors bullshit that I get so frustrated because I'm thinking, wait a minute. There was years ago when all this
it is smoke and mirrors all day long.
All this social media stuff started. There's a video, and you can go on YouTube and look at it. A little boy, he's like in Australia or something at a zoo, and the only thing is, he says the news reporter says she's at the zoo. She says, "What do you think?" And the little kid, he looks at her and says, "I like frogs." That's it.
Turtles. Okay. I like turtles. Is that what you're talking about?
Is it turtles? Yeah. Whatever. And I like whatever the hell it is. And he got millions of views, millions of views. And okay, what does it do? To make you want to go eat a turtle or catch a turtle or a frog or go to the zoo? What does it do? So you get the views. We need to have serious movement in support of our industry.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like I'm starting to see a little bit of it because the gun manufacturers are getting attacked so hard. You know what I mean? The lawsuits that have been going around, which we've won, especially like on the West Coast.
We are being discriminated against by these social media platforms.
100%. And
the industry relies on the social media platforms. I'm thinking, wake up, people.
We shouldn't be using them. I attest to that. I think, going back to how you, in the beginning of this podcast, talked about telling the truth, being factual. And I think that's how I try to stay with my partners, is very transparent, have the conversation. This personally bothers me. It does. Social media personally bothers me. Not in a hurtful way, but just I think it's a smoke and mirror show. I think there's no money to be made there from a business side, if you want to get down to business. And I think that by being transparent, I just said it's one of my part of my platform. I definitely put content there and promote your materials and some of my hunts and tell some of my stories, but it is something I definitely don't lean upon. I personally myself, I don't. I think you and I have talked about this, Johnny. I just don't.
I know that my biggest frustration, I think it's for Keith too, is that we genuinely enjoy telling a story, and seeing that ups and downs and finale and all that. And when it's just social media stuff, sometimes you just got to put up that kill shot, and you don't get the whole perspective. Like, hey, we hunted this deer for 10 days and ended up getting them on the last 2 minutes, and you just don't feel that.
And that consumer,
the morning coffee thing you do is great. I love that kind of content.
Yeah.
Like you said, having conversation.
But that's real.
Or that's real.
It is authentic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the deal about it is the viewer's different.
Yeah.
Okay. The viewer that consumes that, I call it almost like people eating something. Okay. Do you want to eat it or do you want to eat it and taste it?
Yeah.
Okay. It is, and so we want people that want to taste it, not just eat it.
Yeah.
But they want to taste it, and so we want to give good quality out there. But let me ask you something. What is your favorite hunt that you've ever done on TV?
On TV.
Yep.
Can I have more than one?
I know one I want to talk to you about.
My favorite hunt. Gosh, Keith. They're all, I'm like you. I'm so passionately driven by it.
I want to hear about elephant hunting, if you're cool to talk about it.
I'm cool to talk about it. That's a very special hunt.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
But hold on before you do that. What was the best one? Come on.
I was going to say elephant.
Okay, so tell us about it. Why?
The emotional connection to that part of Africa to hunt where elephants are. I mean, there's elephants in parks and places, but I'm talking about rural, raw Africa. It's a very humbling experience from start to finish. Emotional, hard, a lot of walking, hot, and so hot, and you get so tired, you almost go, you know what, if I don't get one, I'm okay, because I don't know if I can walk another 10 miles in this hot desert, you know. Yeah. The emotional connection to the people who live with those animals every day of the week. You know, we live with cattle, horses that weigh 2,000 pounds. Can you imagine living with a 16,000-pound mammal that walks through your backyard and just takes the fence with it, takes the garden with it, maybe it takes your house with it? I mean, being able to celebrate with the community who benefited from that animal. We all, you know, we know you can't bring our meat home from international trips, but, you know, y'all been to Africa, we all eat the meat there. It's phenomenal. But to do something on that level, to see the community benefit, we're talking about poverty-stricken people, you know, who don't know any different, you know, very humble, very happy, because they don't face what you and I face. They don't get to have these podcasts and talk about the world.
They don't have to worry about insurance.
Yeah, they have the insurance and exactly how. Yeah,
putting tires on the truck.
Yeah, they're lucky. I mean, 10 of them living in a 5x5 hut just to have a blanket. And so, being up and close to a mammal that big and who is not hard to approach. I mean, they can be if the wind's wrong. They're going to run, and hopefully they don't run to you.
Yeah,
you know. But being that close to something that big, that can kill you. And it's probably one of the hardest, if I had to guess, it probably goes with all dangerous game hunting, but I think even elephant, it's probably one of the hardest kill shots you really want to make right.
Because it's got to be perfect.
It's got to be perfect. Yeah. Because an elephant can go a long ways.
So let me just say this, jump in here. You've got all this as a story. Every one of those things that you talked about, the people, the weather, the animal, the challenge, the exertion, all those things is part of a story. And how do you tell that on social media in about 30 seconds?
You can't.
Exactly.
And I agree. And then we have the art, going back to our, you know, everybody arguing and having opinions. People want us to post a different kind of picture they think you should post. Well, what does that tell?
Hey,
what does that tell?
It goes way back, because years ago I had Academy as a sponsor and I had a dog. His name was Jackson. Jackson was a freaking stud, and they took pictures of us for some end cap deal, and I thought they turned out great. And they said, yeah, they turned out great, but there's just one problem. I said, what's that? They said, you could tell Jackson was a boy. And I said, yeah,
I remember that.
Jackson's got a pecker.
Yeah.
And they're like, but we can't show that. What are you talking about? I mean, what are we talking about? This was 20 years ago.
Academy.
And so, yes. And so, well, he's got to be faced at a different angle. Okay, so everything is scripted by these manufacturers. Everything is airbrushed and perfect. Why? To sell you something. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't offend anybody. You know, it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings. And I tell them, what about my feelings?
Well, facts aren't feelings. A dog has a pecker. A male dog has a pecker.
Yeah, they do. If they identify as a male.
Let's not go down that road.
We ain't going to go there right now. Okay, so let me ask you this question. You talked about one of your favorite hunts. What bucket list hunt would you go on that you've never gone on?
Polar bear.
Me too.
Me
too. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I think that would be an incredible hunt.
Oh, my God. And it would not be easy.
No.
It would be miserable. And I'd probably have to put Keith in a wheelchair when we got him back to San Antonio, Texas, because we'd be so beat up from riding on a sled.
That'd be fine with me.
But polar bear.
Yeah.
Polar bear. Yeah. And I'd love to do another elephant. I mean, it's a very, very, I tell anybody who wants to go elephant hunting, I'll go with you, because it's that connection to something is very, it's you got to live it.
Yeah.
I can't describe it. You got to live it.
Yep.
I love,
you know,
I've heard a lot of people say that it's something that gets in your soul, and especially with the conservation that goes into that a lot of people don't understand.
I tell people all the time, Africa gets in your soul and it'll call you back time and time again. There's a lady.
Familiar.
There's a lady that's here today at this convention, and she's a very dear friend of mine. And I'm going to brag on her for a minute. I won't mention her name just because I don't have that permission. But she helped me raise a lot of money last year in San Antonio, Texas, for the DSC South Texas chapter, and we put a very authentic, use Keith's words, and unique donation together of a black rhino custodianship, an adoption. She gave me $500,000 for it. She'd never been to Africa. She's here today at this convention to support the preserve, and she told me 2 days ago before she called me she was going to be here. She said, "I just want you to know you changed my life and you changed my family's life." And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Tell me why. Tell me how." She went over and was part of a black rhino translocation, the second largest one in the world. Moving listen to this, Keith, 8 black rhinos to a hunting preserve. And guess who partnered with us on it, besides her and her financials? The WWF.
Really?
The first time ever to support a hunting prep.
So there is hope.
Yeah.
You hope. You think any of these organizations want to share that because they didn't get to do it? No, but there is hope. And so she came here. She's a non-hunter. Never killed an animal, never will. But she understands conservation, and her family supports wildlife conservation. She understands what hunting is to the conservation model. She went over there, did that translocation, came home and went back a week later. And she told me 2 days ago, she said, "It changed my life. It changed my kid's life." And I said, "It does that.
I think
it's in your soul, and it calls you back time and time
hunting will
again.
change your life, Blake.
Hunting will change your life. Yeah.
I don't care if you're hunting squirrels or rabbits.
Hunting will change your life. Well, in fact, she's got several boys, and her boys all shot their first animals. That's all they wanted to do was hunt after they shot the first.
See what you created?
Yeah.
Oh, man, a monster.
That's
and
awesome,
she's
though.
here,
Yeah.
Never been to a convention like this, So, hunting will change a life.
Okay, first off, thank you for being on here.
Hey, thank you.
Before we get off this thing, I do want to talk. I can't help but talk about chronic wasting disease.
Sure, absolutely. You know
Okay.
where I feel and how I stand.
Okay, I want chronic wasting disease. For those of you who don't know what it is, CWD is a political issue. In my opinion, it's a disease out there that deer and elk and moose have that has caused a tremendous political problem in.
It is a political disease. Hear us loud and clear on this podcast. It is a political disease.
And I have, and you two have been very vocal on this and letting people know that, hey, pay more attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
Ask questions. You know, when
100%.
when you're a kid, okay, more than likely you ask your parents, "Mama, how come this? Daddy, how come this? Why? It's okay to ask questions.
Yeah.
And do not trust what you hear from a lot of these agencies, because a lot of this stuff is financially motivated,
Right.
and it is agenda motivated.
100%. There's
And
a lot
so-
of money on the table right now on this mess.
And so CWD is an issue that will be coming up over and over and over again until the federal money dries up. And then all of a sudden, it'll just go away.
It'll go away. Yeah, it's you're right, and I'll say it again. It is a political disease, and I'm getting to be on this podcast with probably one of the most influential people behind deer breeding, and but with you're familiar with what CWD is, and you know what it is, and you have a bunch of big, beautiful deer, and I mean,
It is an issue that we could talk for days.
It's an attack on hunting. It's an attack on landowner rights, and that's where I'm going to leave it right there.
There you go.
Ask questions, and don't believe everything you hear, but ask questions. Ask them now. Ask them going forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say all in all, especially these two that have been doing this for a long time, they are top conservationists. I don't care if you're hunting elephants, buffalo, frogs, anything in between, as Keith always says. These
Turtles.
guys are turtles.
Yeah, man, I'll smoke a turtle in a heartbeat.
22, buddy.
But these guys are the ones that paved the way. So I'm blessed to be here with both of you. Folks, if you're out there and you're watching this, when we're doing these podcasts, Keith will tell you firsthand, it's going to be about the truth and how we feel about things, and hunting and shooting and everything in between. So be sure to check us out. We're going to put up the screen all the platforms you can watch us on. So please be sure to follow us on this deal, because we're going to be having a bunch of great people just like Blake on.
And make sure and watch Trailing the Hunter's Moon.
Yes.
Tell everybody about it real quick.
Trailing the Moon. We're going to be on Pursuit Channel Wednesdays and Saturdays, Wednesday mornings, Wednesday night, and Saturday morning. New season will come out third quarter. Got some cool stuff coming up.
And we're on the Pursuit Channel as well with High Road and Deer and Wildlife Stories.
Yes, the High Road Deer and Wildlife Stories, and we're also on YouTube as well, so you can check us out on all that. Would you close us out, Keith? We'll see you next time.
All right. We'll see you next time. Adios.
See ya.
People Who Hunt can be watched on Facebook and YouTube and listened to on all major platforms.
That was fun, guys.